Hi, I'm Mary Donnelly, and I'm the principal of John Rohr Elementary Middle School.
My name is Greg Hewitt, and I do math intervention from 5th through 8th grade.
My name is Mary Anchenitz, and I am the lead teacher. So budget cuts have affected the school drastically. We've had to cut back on positions as well as programming, and we've had to make a lot of really hard decisions. At times we're looking at not being able to have by paper or different things like that. So the children have really been suffering.
Budget cuts have affected it in a lot of ways, from staffing positions to resources and materials available. Everything from paper to field trips that we can't go on.
Budget cuts have been very detrimental to our school. We had to cut 1.5 positions, and that was only because we were able to get some help from Baltimore City. Our Title I money was cut severely because of the way Title I is funded, and because our population are mostly immigrants and they're not documented, they don't fall under the categories that would qualify those parents anymore for Title I services.
Because of his decisions and legislations, I know we haven't had as much funding as we did, I believe changed some of the numbers, what you get per kid, and stuff like that. So it's definitely shaken some things up. And also the school calendar, his decisions on that have also definitely affected how you can do all your other stuff, everything else you have to fit in the school calendar, professional development, stuff like that. So that affects teacher development and everything else that you have to get done.
Governor Hogan's decision to determine what the school year should look like has really hindered our schedule. When you determine when schools must open and the last day school must occur, really messes up the schedule. We have a lot more testing than some other schools have to do, because not only do we do the regular part testing and systemic testing, since I have a really large ESOL population, they all have to be given the WIDA test, which is a lot of one-on-one testing, and I have over 450 children that have to be tested.
So Governor Hogan's decision to dictate the school calendar has been a tremendous impact. I think it was extremely short-sighted to interfere with the close and the beginning of school, because the school calendar was tight as is, and to dictate when we have to begin or end has really stranglehold how a school can develop their calendar to effectively meet the needs of kids.
I think my first concern is somebody in a position of that much power. I want to know that they obviously that they've gotten to that position for some reason. So at some point they've shown some sort of intelligence to somebody, or showed some sort of talent for it. But that they're I guess I would say their heart is in the right place. Like, are they there for the right reasons? Do they care about kids the way any good educator would? It should be about the kids first, and then from there on. And then, unfortunately, from her sound bites and her different stories in the news, everything she said is very concerning, because she does not sound like somebody who is qualified for the job, that has a heart in the right place, that cares about it the way I would want somebody in that position to care about it. And so I'm, I guess, anxious and nervous about her decision she's going to make and what's going to happen.
I think it's important, if you have a Secretary of Education, they actually have an education background, which Betsy DeVos does not have. It's very concerning also that she seems to favor charter schools, which aren't bad, but the majority of our schools are public schools, and I don't necessarily think she has a clear understanding of the public school system. She doesn't have an education background at all, which I find appalling, that a Secretary of Education does not have an education background.
The biggest thing is putting people in positions that they don't have experience directly with is always dangerous.
The day that it was announced that Trump was the president, we had to get counselors in to work with the children. They were hysterical. Their fear was that they would be deported, their parents would be deported. Anytime they see any ICE in the neighborhood, ICE officers in the neighborhood, we have children that don't come to school. We had a situation not long after he was sworn in where ICE were in the neighborhood looking for someone specific, but it was as children were coming to school, and parents that were close to the school came running to the school and would not leave. We had to drive them home because they were afraid that they would be picked up and deported. And the ones who hadn't gotten close to school stayed home, afraid to leave their homes. At the beginning of this year, we had a child, the mother brought in the first day of school, and he was crying hysterically because dad had gotten deported, and he was afraid to leave the house. Even though schools are safe havens, he was afraid to come from the house into the school. And they eventually had to move back to their country because dad could not get back into the country. He did not come to school at all that first month of school until they left the country. The other problem is that there's been this atmosphere of negativity towards certain ethnic groups, and we do have a growing Arabic population here, and you can tell that people are picking up on the negativity coming from that administration towards them, and then towards our Latino families, which are the majority of our population. The comments that kids have to hear as they're coming back and forth to school is very negative, and we do a lot. We have I'm very fortunate that in my budget I was able to have 2 social workers and a school psychologist that provide a lot of counseling to our children and get them referred out to outside counseling because it's affected them emotionally then, which affects them academically.